Today we're going to test getting a car unstuck using a stick and a bunch of physics. I don't even remember when I got this video with some guys in Russia. There's a truck stuck and they managed to get it unstuck using an L-shaped stick, a rope. It's a really crazy thing and I think it's going to work really well. So today we came to Jacareí. It's a city here in the Vale do Paraíba in São Paulo, and we're going to simulate this mud situation to try to get the car out because we don't have the exact ideal situation here. Ideally, we would test with a small car that's lighter, but I have this 2-ton car here which is a bit heavier. On the other hand, it's really hard to get this one stuck because it's 4-wheel drive and all, so it gets out of the mud easily. But on the day it does get stuck, then it just won't come out at all, because it's really stuck. In short, what we're going to do is a kind of fake stuck situation. We made 2 big holes here that fit exactly with the car's wheels. So I'm going to put the car into this hole and you'll see it's a pretty bad situation. Let's fit the car right into the hole. The car is nose down on the ground. A regular passenger car would have significant trouble getting out of this hole and likely wouldn't be able to. With this car here, I think it's a little easier. Really? The little guy can get out of the mud by itself, but in a real situation when the car is really stuck, usually someone stays inside, accelerating the car, trying to use its power to help get out, and other people are pulling with a rope, either with another car, a winch, or something like that. So, let's do it differently. Let's not leave anyone inside the car. Let's try to let the car get out by itself, just to make it a bit harder, right? So, I left it in neutral and we're going to get the car out of here just using the rope. First, I'll tie a figure 8 knot on the hook in front of the pickup truck. For instructions on tying this knot, check out our previous Manual do Mundo tutorial. But Ibre, who carries a piece of rope inside the car? Today, I'll admit that I don't carry one anymore. But when I lived in the countryside, and later when I lived in São Paulo and had an old car, I always had a rope in the trunk and it saved me from bad situations twice. The first time was when I was teaching Mary to drive in the countryside and she got my '94 Voyage stuck in the mud. We waited for a Fiat 147 to pass by, then I asked the driver to tie a rope to his car and mine and he pulled us out. The second time I was with that same '94 Voyage on Raposo Tavares, which is a very busy highway in São Paulo, heading to the countryside on a Friday night while it was raining and the car went through a puddle and completely stalled. It died, it wouldn't start at all. I was desperate there. I called a friend of mine, he got a piece of rope and pulled me out from the side of the highway. So basically, if you already know you're going to have trouble with your car, you carry a piece of rope with you. The rope must be tied to an anchor point now. It can no longer be done manually, regardless of effort. I'm going to use this group of trees here. What would we call this? It's a giant clump of trees. If you're going to use a tree, ideally you should tie it as close as possible to its base so you don't create a lever effect. Because if you break the tree, it's useless, right? Also, to protect the tree, instead of wrapping the rope directly around it, which would create a high pressure area and damage the tree, I'm going to use one of those straps I keep in the back of my pickup truck for carrying loads. By the way, I said I didn't carry a rope, but I do carry a strap. It's time to use 2 sticks, but Ibre, you said it was just 1 stick. When we talk about a wooden branch or a log, 1 and 2 are sometimes the same thing, because look, 1, 2. Anyway, what I have here are 2 posts, each 2.5 meters long. They're about 10 to 15 centimeters in diameter, so they're 2 pretty sturdy sticks. At the same time, they're not too thick, and that's important because if they're too thick, they can get too heavy, and the physical effect we're expecting here will be a bit harder to achieve. What I have to do now is join these 2 pieces of wood in an L shape, leaving a little bit sticking out at the ends. To make the wood pieces fit well, I should create a flat surface. I'll shave it down a bit with a machete. Obviously, if you're out in the woods, you'll have to cut down a tree or a branch to replace this eucalyptus post. But Ibre, who even has a machete inside the... You know that if you drive off-road and get stuck, you need to have the gear to get your car out of the mud, correct? You see that there's a piece of wood that's parallel to the rope and another one that's across it. At the base of the one that's parallel, I'm going to make a little loop and pass it through here so that the leftover rope, this end of the rope, stays on the outside. okay, on the L. It can't be on the inside. The work will now begin. Stop, 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 stop that mess you were making there. Let's understand a little bit of theory before getting this car out of the hole. How is it possible to get a car out of a hole using 2 pieces of wood? I made a simulation here. Look, as you can see, there's my pickup truck, which is really heavy. The 2 pieces of wood over there are already attached. I even tied it with a green string so we don't confuse it with the rope, which is red. And over there I tied it to a tree, as you can see, a situation very similar to what we find out there in the woods. This here is my wooden L that I'm going to use to get the car unstuck. The first thing I'm going to do is take this rope that's connecting the car to the tree and make a loop with it, passing it here around the base of my L, okay? This little thing here. So I'm going to make a loop here, really simple, okay? For that, the rope needs to be loose at the moment you tie it to the car. And from now on, the movement is extremely simple. I drop this stick over there and pass this one over the rope. Then I drop it over there. You can see that the car started to be pulled. Look. I press it over the rope and drop it there. Look at what's happening with the car. Getting out of the mud, and I pass it over the rope. I throw it this way and pass it over the rope. And that's how it goes. In this extremely simple way, I created a crane using a lever. 2 questions that I think I would have watching this video. First, why does the lever make it easier to get the car out of the mud? How can that piece of wood lift 2 tons by turning it? Also, why does it move sideways, backward, forward, and sideways again? What's the purpose of that motion? Firstly, let's comprehend the lever. Archimedes, a Greek mathematician from Syracuse, said this back in the 3rd century before Christ. Give me a lever and a fulcrum and I will move. No, I will move the world. Is it really possible to move the world with a lever? The secret of the lever is actually quite simple. This here is a lever, okay? I'm going to turn this lever. Look at the path the lever is going to take. The lever is going to make a big path here. I'd estimate the lever's path is around 1 meter. However, the car barely moved at all despite the lever's significant movement. Let's go back and calculate this movement very precisely. Look, it's right here at 30. It went up to 38. For me to know the size of the movement I made, the size of this arc I made, I take the distance from the tip of the lever to its fulcrum, which is at the center of this other stick here, okay? Which is 42 centimeters. So multiplying 42 by pi, 3.1416, that number goes on, but I'll just use this short part, 131.94, rounding up 132 centimeters. My arc here was 132 and the car only went 8. That means I did 16.5 times the distance the car did. In practice, it means I used 16.5 times less force than I would if I were pulling the car directly. Or, thinking about it another way, I turned into a superhero who has 16 times more strength than I actually have. That's the basic principle of the lever. The longer the lever is, the greater the movement I will make, and as a result, the easier it becomes to make the movement. So, if you have a really strong fulcrum with a giant lever, maybe you could move the world, yes, but what we really want to move isn't just a pickup truck. Why is it an L shape instead of a simple lever? With a simple lever, the movement would be like this, see? But probably doing it just once isn't enough to get the car out of the mud. I'd have to do it several times. But I can't rotate the lever on the ground, right? It doesn't go past the ground. So, the secret is in this right here, look. When I pull this thing, I change the position of my spool here that's winding, and I can turn the lever to the other side, look. So I can keep switching the side I turn the lever as I change it here. My movement becomes endless until the rope runs out. The theory is beautiful. If I were watching this video, I'd give multiple likes just for Archimedes' story. He's the same guy who said Eureka. That tale is worth sharing another time, but now we have a car stuck in a hole. Let's try to get it out of there. I'm going to start by myself, but I know that when the rope tightens, I'll probably need some help. It's starting to tighten, man. I'm noticing a small issue. The first mistake was not wrapping it from this side initially, and not from this one. So it's kind of twisting the rope. I think I'm going to have to unwind it. And besides, as the rope gets farther from the meeting knot, it keeps wanting to twist this branch here more and more, instead of stretching the rope. So, let's take it apart and try to do it again. The rope is wrapped around the end of the L-shaped object, which is at a right angle to itself, and it's all on the outside of the L. Let's test if it works. It's starting to stretch, little one. Look at that. But there's still no sign of the car moving yet. It's starting to get heavy here. I think now I'm going to need some help, because if this stick here wants to lift, I won't be able to turn the other one. Come on, man. The rope is stretching. Are you pulling the pickup truck out? For now, nothing. I think we're going to need a little more strength here. We realize that two improvements need to be made here. The first is to cut the tip of this stick that reverses the direction of the spool. Its tip is getting in the way, and the other is at the end of the other stick that actually pulls. We should put a rope to make the leverage a bit easier. The rope can't keep coming over here. It has to always wind up in the same place. Now it's going to work. Now I can feel it.
It's almost out. Just a bit more. Come on.
The cargo strap on the pickup truck snapped. This is insanely strong. If I'm not mistaken, this one is for a ton. Each line is 500 kilos, if my memory serves me right. Please correct me in the comments if I'm mistaken. If that's the case, I think this is already getting way too dangerous. The rope could snap, hit us, we could fall, and so on. We'll have to try this with a regular car, though it's not recommended for a 2-ton vehicle. A 900 kilo car, I think that's safer. I was going to tow Mala's car, but Ibere, you can't tow a 2-ton car with a strap that only holds 1 ton. It's because we're not lifting the car. We're not hanging the car by the strap. We're just pulling it forward. So, theoretically, it should be a little less force than all that. Let's try another day, test with another car. But I think this primitive method here with the lever and the ratchet is really cool. Let's save that for another video. Today's adventure was already worth sharing, and you learned a lot about levers. Now that we've taken everything apart here, you can tell it was pretty intense. Just look at the mark the rope left on the eucalyptus. It made a groove here, a hole in the eucalyptus. It's all marked up. I'll mention some things we've done. Once we washed a car using just a cup of water. We were in the Sao Paulo water crisis. And we also made a poor man's parking sensor using just a little foam ball and a string.